All right, we are back for another week of UFC Talk, the AllStar MMA live show, and UFC San Antonio. Man, it was an incredible event. We're gonna get into all of that, and I got my guest. He's back with us on just a different platform. Have you ever been on the show before, or
I haven't
is
been
this
on
your
this
first
show.
time?
I've been on like
Okay,
other all-star shows with you back in the day, but
that's
first time
right.
on the live show, first time doing recaps. Happy to be back. Happy to reunite JHK and ESK.
Oh, for sure, man. And Spencer's been doing a lot of work for Severe MMA, so go check out Severe MMA. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel. If you subscribe and hit that notification, you'll get his content. It comes out every week. Go check it out, and let's just jump right into the main event, man. Cory Sandhagen goes in there and defeats Chito Vera via split decision. We'll get to the split decision part, but Sandhagen, man, he was so impressive. He is just showing his improvement, and I think a lot of people just linger on the losses that he's had, and don't look at the improvements that he's made throughout the years. Spencer, what did you think about how he performed? And then every round, it just seemed like he was getting better and better. What did you see?
I mean, he fought the way that I expected him to. I think he fought the way you need to fight Chito Vera. And that's right out of the gate. You know he's going to be a slow starter. So get after him and show him all those different looks. The thing that Cory Sandhagen does really well and did really well on Saturday is he's switching the stances and it's different looks. And the commentators talked about it throughout, right? He gives you so much that you have to think about. And in these last few fights, he started mixing in the wrestling even more as well. And so that becomes another piece of it. And so it felt to me like, especially through those first two rounds, it was just too much for Chito to deal with. And as Sandhagen starts slowing a little bit, as Chito starts figuring out, okay, he can do all of these different things. You saw him start stuffing the takedowns a little bit. But by that point, he's 2 rounds down. He's taken a bunch of punishment, not in a bad way, not that he was ever in dire straits or anything like that. Chito Vera has an incredible ability to not show any damage ever. But like you just get down and it just felt to me like a little bit of that spirit was taken out of Chito early. Now, maybe it was he didn't have it to begin with. And we sort of saw that in between rounds as he talked with his coach, Jason Perillo, who was really trying to egg him on throughout. But Sandhagen just stayed on the gas. He just stayed doing all the things that he's done. And you mentioned the improvements, the developments. I look at that loss to Petr Yan, which was a close fight, a competitive fight. And I think he came out in that fight a little too fast, a little too aggressive, and it cost him later in the fight. And since then, he's metered that off a little bit and he's figured out that right rhythm and that right output for him. And he's looked great since.
Yeah, he looks like if I was a guy fighting him, he looked like a guy that would be confusing to figure out in that fight. It's just the movement. It's just he's just always moving and he's always attacking from a different angle, shooting for takedowns. Man, he looked incredible. Like I don't understand like why people would say that was a boring fight. Like I love that fight.
That
That
was a
was like the
great fight.
highest
Yeah.
level of MMA you could watch. And Cheeto, maybe he, his last couple of fights, right? He was able to like chill, kick back, and then
Right. Find
and
that
pull out the
shot.
shotgun at the end and just boom, you know what I mean, and win
Right.
the fight. And maybe he was relying on that a little too much in this one. Maybe he was. Do you think so?
I don't know if he was necessarily relying on it. I think that's a piece of Chito that's always there, right? He's a guy that doesn't mind getting down because he knows he's got that shotgun, as you aptly put it. We even saw in the first round, right? Sandhagen takes him down, and right away, Chito does what he does of like framing off the head, landing elbows, cut Cory Sandhagen immediately. Those are all good things. The point where he gets in trouble is that the offense just isn't enough for him to be when you can't pull out that shotgun when it's not there or it just won't rack properly, then it's like, oh, what do I do? And it felt to me watching it like he didn't really have that. What do I do? There wasn't the answer to that question of, okay, I'm not going to hit this guy with one shot. So I've got to really change up what I'm doing and come out and be more volume and be more pressure and be more pace. And then the other piece of that is that Cory Sandhagen is just a pain to deal with. Like the thing that he does so well that I think is a differentiation point between him and a lot of other elite competitors. And again, they spoke about it during the fight itself. He doesn't have to reset ever. He can fight from both stances. He's got power in both hands. He's fluid with each limb. And so where some people have to throw their shot and then get back and reset into their orthodox stance or their southpaw stance, every shot he throws, wherever he ends up, however he lands, cool, this is how I'm going to fight. So I never give you an opportunity where I'm not coming forward and in your face and hitting you with something. And I think it was just one of those nights where I bet you if you asked Chito today or tomorrow how he felt in the back, he would say, you know what, I just couldn't get loose and I didn't feel like I have it. Like he didn't look like himself running to the octagon on Saturday night. And Cory Sandhagen was the exact opposite. Came out and looked great and put it on him.
You're right. That could be it. You know, I mean, fighters do have off nights where they just don't feel it. They just can't get warmed up. They just can't hit that second gear and or the third gear or whatnot. And Cory Sandhagen, man, all credit to him for putting in a game plan where Chito couldn't get into the second gear or the third gear. He was just stuck at gear one and landed a couple hard shots throughout the fight. But there was no round, I don't think, where Chito Vera won at all. I don't understand like what one of the judges saw where he scored the 3 rounds to 2 for Chito. That just is blasphemous. I don't know, man. Like it's just
Cory
crazy.
Sandhagen's face when they said 48-47 Vera was all of our collective faces of like, wait, what? I said to my wife when it was done, when I went downstairs, like, I can't see at all how anybody would have scored, yet alone 2 rounds. Like, I mean, to me, it was a shutout. To me, it was 50-45. If not, you throw in some 10-8s in there for those first 2 rounds, whatever. But like, where's the 1 round Chito won, yet alone 2, never mind 3. And so it, of course, is a relatively inexperienced at this level judge from Texas that you just go like, what are we doing? I get that you want to get these men and women opportunities. You want to give them chances to prove themselves, to learn, to gain experience. That's not how you do it.
It's crazy that Sandhagen and Vera, they're the same age, but you look at them and you think like Vera's much, much older, right? Like he has an aura around him that's different. And Sandhagen, man, he's hitting in his prime, man. I think Sterling showed like what you need to do against Sandhagen. You need to slow him down, put him on the ground. But man, his ground game is getting better. He wasn't afraid to go to the ground. He took down Vera to show like, yo, we're gonna go to the ground too, and you're not gonna know what I'm gonna do throughout this whole fight. And even if I have to get a decision win, I'm gonna get a decision win, because at the end of the day, at that level, like at the top 5, all that matters is you win. It doesn't matter how you win, right? Because even a split decision, controversial split decision, that will get you a title shot, right? Because why? You won the fight. It doesn't matter what Dana White thinks about how the judges score the fight. It's just you won, right? Because we've seen guys on the other side where they didn't deserve the split decision win, and then they got a title shot, right, in the past.
TJ Dillashaw won a debated split decision over Cory Sandhagen, and then was off for a year and then fought for a title. So it happens. And I mean, hopefully nobody lingers on that split decision. Nobody looks at it down the road and is like, it becomes another one of those fights where we're like, look, it was scored a split decision, but they're stupid and he won clearly. And we sort of qualify it and we talk about the asterisks all the time. But I mean, he looked great. And he's always been that guy to me in this division that has, of all those elite fighters, and we'll excuse Henry Cejudo for right now because he had been on the shelf. Cory Sandhagen to me was always the most complete of these guys, right? Because he could do a little bit of everything. Now, Aljo showed in coming out and jumping on his back and being the human Jansport that he is. This is a way to beat him. I can have my specialty. Merab Dvalishvili would be a super interesting fight because we saw what Merab did to Petr Yan a couple weeks ago. But Sandhagen's a problem, man, because he can do everything. And give me Give me Sandhagen and Dvalishvili as soon as we can. Like sometime this summer, let's go. Give them 5 rounds and let them get after it.
Yeah, do kids even wear JanSport anymore? Is that a thing?
I don't know. It's still
Yeah.
just, I mean,
Is
Aljo
that
said
even?
it. Aljo said it once, and I was like,
Oh,
yep, I'm holding on to that forever.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I guess, because he's much younger than me. So, when I was
Yeah,
a kid,
exactly.
when I was in
Exactly.
middle school, JanSport was the thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, yeah. So, old school reference. I
That's
guess
right. I
it might be
appreciate it.
still around. Um, yeah, it's an interesting position you have for Sandhagen, and I thought he made a mistake by calling out Marab. Not a mistake as in like it's a mistake of like the fight being a mistake, because I feel like he's skilled enough to beat Marab, man. People think Marab has become this mythical character that can't be beaten. There's nobody that can't be beaten in that division. You know what I mean? He's lost already. You know what I mean? To
Right.
twice, I think, in the UFC
Yeah.
already. So
Lost split decision in his debut and then
yeah.
lost to Ricky Simone in his second fight where he got choked out put to sleep at the end of the fight itself.
To me, the more impactful fight, the more interesting fight is the Sean O'Malley fight, because of the striking, because of the movement. And I feel like that would draw more attention to Cory Sandhagen, because Cory Sandhagen is not here to talk trash
No.
and degrade people, but the only way to get more people on your side is to beat the guy that is garnering all the attention. And I feel like Sean O'Malley garners the most attention in that division, not Marab. Marab has a fan base, he has a country behind him, but I think he should have been calling out Sean O'Malley. Throw something out of left field, because he's been talking about Marab the whole week, and then you come to the post-fight interview and you go out there and you say, "Oh, Sean O'Malley, where you at? Are you scared?" You know what I mean? Like, you could throw some of those in there. Just some
So
shit.
he was talking about wanting to call out I think his original intention going into the week was to call out Sean O'Malley and say,
Oh,
look,
really?
that's the next guy. And just before we jumped on, I was reading something where they talked to him Saturday after his fight and his post-fight availability, and they were like, I thought it was going to be Sean O'Malley, and he was like, look, it seems like the UFC wants him for the next title shot, so he's just kind of hanging out and waiting his turn. I know Marab is a guy that just wants to stay active, wants to fight within 3-4 months. That's the fight I can get. He also said he thinks Marab is a tougher test, is a more interesting test, given what he just did to Petr Yan. I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I'm with you. If you want to give me Cory Sandhagen and Sean O'Malley, I will take it every day and twice on Sundays. But I'm okay with him calling out Marab, and because they're two guys that just want to stay active, right? O'Malley seems like he's waiting to see what happens with Aljo and Henry Cejudo. Fine. Get those other two in there in June or July, and away we go.
Yeah, the whole Marab and Aljo situation, where they're like friends and they won't fight each other unless you give them a lot of money, which means they'll fight each other. At the end of the day, that's what they're saying, right? If you give me a lot of money, we're going to fight each other. Then you're going to fight each other. That's what it sounds like. Like, I don't understand why you don't want to give opportunities to your friend, or give opportunities for each other to advance in your career. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's at the highest level. If it's for the title, then that could be an excuse to go in there and fight each other, right? If it's for like number one contender, I could see why you wouldn't fight each other.
That's what we always heard, right? From these guys from the same camp, training partners, things like that, close friends. Well, we're not going to fight unless it's for a title. The only way these two dudes are going to fight is if it's for the title, because Aljo's got the belt and Marab's number one. Now, if Aljo doesn't retain the title, that's another conversation. But as you said, like, if it's for the title, you're both getting extra pay for it being a championship fight. Why not? Like, you fight each other every day in the gym.
Every day.
You battle every day in the gym. Why not get paid? Why not go out there and get paid? One of you is leaving with gold. One of you gets a loss. Nobody's feeling bad for it. There's not going to be any bad blood. There's not, Aljo's not going to get up there and talk mess about Marab. Reverse isn't going to happen either. Go get paid. Go fight for a belt. Fight each other for the belt.
I wish they would just take the pro wrestling approach and just create a fake feud with each other, even though they're friends behind the scenes. They just create a fake feud with each other, you know what I mean? And because they probably talk to each other about it, right? Fighting each other or not fighting each other.
I mean, Aljo would be a great heel. He would
Yeah,
just
he would.
he's built to be a heel. Just
Exactly.
all of a sudden, super kick him through the window of the barber shop. There you
Yeah,
go.
they could choreograph the whole thing, right? And because nowadays everything is
Yeah.
choreographed, right?
Right.
The whole like I ran into him backstage and we went face to face, and then
Right.
all these cameras are out and they're facing each other and they're talking a little smack.
Yeah.
Him and
It just so
Cejudo.
happens we caught this on camera. Sure.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And they could even have their little teammates, right? You know, have some
Have a
involvement as well.
little dust up at Extreme Couture one day. Sparring goes a
Exactly.
little hard. You get a few of the other guys that are in there. Get Eric Nixick involved.
Yeah.
Dennis Davis. Get everybody picking sides and pulling them apart, and everybody gets paid.
The UFC would be all about that. Nowadays, you
Oh
understand.
God, could you imagine best friends, training partners, all these years? Suddenly, it's a blood feud and they're enemies. Yeah, it'd be great.
We've had it. Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, and look at what that morphed into, right? They fought each other, and I don't, even if it's fake, it's still something the casual fans wouldn't even pick up on. They would just think it's real, and they would love it. They would click on it, right? TMZ, you know what I mean? They would hop on it like that. Yeah. That's what they want. The UFC wants the mainstream, so to say, mainstream media to hop on and promote the UFC. And if that's the way you can do it, why not? Why not do it? And you get paid, sponsorships, all of that good stuff. Marab's the good guy, the immigrant mentality, and Aljo is the
entitled champion. Yeah,
exactly, right. It's
going on his podcast, running down his former friend.
Yeah,
great. Be great.
Hit him with a chair or something.
Brought him out here to Vegas, let him stay at my house. He didn't pay me any rent, wouldn't pay for groceries, had to kick him out.
He stole my jewelry.
We got you. We got you all set, guys.
He stole my jewelry, and then Marab's wearing his jewelry in an interview. Why not? Why?
Big gold chain. Perfect. Aljo, Marab, we got you sorted out. Give us a shout.
Exactly.
Oren Hodek, KO reps. Get in my DMs. We'll make this happen.
It works. You know why it works? It's because Colby Covington's doing it all the time. Right now, as we speak, he's doing it, and people are eating it up, right? Like you and me, we know what's going on. It's like it is what it is. But the people, the regular people, the fans of the sport, they are eating it up. Even if they hate it, they're clicking on it, right? And you could create a narrative if you really wanted to, but these guys, they don't want to do that at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's a fantasy for us. We would love to see it.
I appreciate them not doing it. Like I appreciate I talked to Marab before his fight with Piotr Jan and asked him about it. Like, what's it mean that Aljo is willing, right? Has said, like, if I'm standing in the way of my guy fighting for the title, I will give up the belt and go up. Now, some of that is the weight cut is miserable and he thinks he can compete at 45, which I think he certainly can. I would challenge Alex Volkanovski before I gave up the belt. Then I would do that. But he was like, look, what more can I ask for? Like, this is my best friend. This is one of my closest friends in the world. And he's willing to do that for me. Like, why would I ever fight somebody that's willing to do something that magnanimous for me? I'd love for them to fight. It'd be great. The feud that we just cooked up would be amazing, but it is also pretty cool to see that relationship the way that it is at the top of that division.
Yeah, you could respect it, right? But then it's like
still want to
there's only a short window for these fighters, and it's like the NFL. You only have a certain amount of years where you can make the most amount of money for the highest level of the athletes, right?
Yep.
And you got to take advantage of that. If you don't, are you going to regret it 15 years down the line when you're working as an Uber driver? Because I was watching a video talking about these like crypto millionaires that are Uber drivers now because they lost all their money because they spent it during that window and pretty much spent it on nothing. And now they're at the bottom of the barrel. And that could be happening. We know what how the story ends for a lot of fighters, right? They don't take advantage of the moments, and then later on they regret it. So I hope that they don't regret like not fighting each other, because that's a big payday. And you mentioned Piotr Jan. I guarantee you he will fight his best friend for the title. Like that would be no problem.
There's zero hesitation with him. Cory Sandhagen too, right? Like if his best friend was in the division, they would dap it up and then they would get after it.
Yeah. And Cory, him working with Ryan Hall, I think that's something that we got to really watch, because you know, he got choked out by Aljo, and I think that really put a fire underneath him, and he's working very close. He was in the corner, right?
Yep.
He was one of the corner men. He has a pretty really good corner. He has his head coach. I think his name is Christian something.
Yeah, Christian
and
Allen.
then you got Banks, Coach Banks, who's
Yep.
also a fighter, his wrestling coach, and you got Ryan Hall, phenomenal corner right
Yeah.
there. And those guys are building a champion right now, and you guys need to watch that. If you're not paying attention to Cory Sandhagen, those guys are building a champion right now. He's going to be fighting for the title in the next year, I believe.
Yeah, the adjustments he's made since those two close fights, and it's small stuff, right? If you're not watching them every fight, if you're not paying close attention, you can miss it. But he's made adjustments. We've seen it in terms of the wrestling and mixing that in more. That's, as you said, Carrington Banks, very good wrestling coach, fighter himself. Christian Allen has always had the striking on point. The Ryan Hall edition is interesting, right? Because the Wizard don't play on the ground, and if you're going to be there, right, you're adding the wrestling in. If you're going to be there, that's a dude that I want telling me some different stuff that I can try and that I can get into. We saw him looking for a couple things yesterday against Chito in those early rounds. Nothing was there for him, but just to have that in the back pocket of like, I've continued to work with Ryan Hall, who has shown me X, Y, and Z, makes him more dangerous going forward.
If you're watching live, make sure you guys comment, and we'll put that on the screen. And go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, make your picks for UFC events, win prizes. If you're watching the replay, same thing. You know what I mean? Go in the descriptions, download that app. Now, let's move on to the co-main event. Holly Holm, 41 years old, and still whipping that ass. Like, what? Like this, I'm lost for words. 41 years old. You don't see 41-year-old women out there, especially with that gas tank, the pace that she was putting on Santos. And it almost seemed like Holly Holm was putting on the game plan that Santos was trying to put on her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They almost they had like 100%. The same game plan, right? It's just Holly Holm was better. Is that what you saw?
And Holly Holm, for the last, you have to give her credit, right? And I've been fortunate enough to talk to Holly a bunch over the course of her career and my career. And we always sort of joke and laugh about, she's famous for that head kick, right? Obviously, we all understand it's the moment that's always going to lead the description or lead the highlight reel of Holly Holm. She has spent her entire career working to become a more well-rounded fighter, and people haven't necessarily responded to it because they just want to see the head kicks. They just want to see her knock people's heads off. She's gotten to a point now where she doesn't have to box. She doesn't have to kickbox. She went out and out wrestled Yana Santos on Saturday thoroughly. Like in that second and third round, when she figured out, oh, I can put her on the ground and control her here and dominate her here, I'm just going to do it. She didn't look like a kickboxer in those moments. She looked like somebody that has been working her butt off with Izzy Martinez on her wrestling, with her grappling coaches, all of that stuff. She was looking for those submissions, almost got a couple. It really is impressive to see somebody, as you said, 41 years old, continuing to develop, clearly continuing to improve, and still hungry to get out there and fight the best in the division, despite some tough losses, despite being in a position where she's probably got to keep going through the Yana Santoses of the world and win 3, 4, 5 straight fights in order to get another championship opportunity. She seems ready to do it, and she seems interested in doing it. And as a 44-year-old that couldn't imagine doing that, I have to tip my cap to her.
Yeah, you have to. Preston, Kesselring, Jan Holm fought someone on a 2-year layoff. That is true. That is true. You make a point there, Preston. Some people are not going to be impressed by that. The reason why is, like you just said, people remember her for the head kick knockout. They want to see that. They want to see her throw strikes. They want to see her throw head kicks. They want to see her break someone down with the body. But lately, she's been fighting for longevity, I believe. And I believe that she's been fighting to rise up the ranks without taking as much damage as well. And when you go into the clinch and you take someone down, you're very rarely taking much damage because you're on top and you're putting the damage on right. your opponent. And I think that that's what we're going to see with her, unless there's a striker that can give her a little bit of a challenge right on the feet. But I don't know. It's gonna take something. Holly Holm, she's in an interesting spot too, because Yana, she came off a 2-year layoff. I think it's probably more than a 2-year layoff. Yeah, around the 2-year layoff. But yeah, usually when women come back from pregnancy, the first fight they don't look like themselves. We've
Right.
seen it a couple of times. Like Mackenzie Dern, her
Yeah,
first fight, she
lost to
came
Amanda
back.
Hebos her first fight back.
Yeah, her first, and then after that, she's done really well, right, for herself. It's just you gotta knock off that rust and coming back to like a contender fight. It's not something that's good,
That's what I
right?
was gonna say is like to Preston's comment. Sure, yes, Yana Santos hasn't fought since July 2021 prior to Saturday. She could have fought 4 months ago, and Holly Holm would have delivered that same performance. That to me was a fight going in that Holly Holm is historically, if you look throughout her career, that's the fight she wins. She wins those every single time. The ones where she struggles mostly have been championship fights, and then the Ketlin Vieira fight where she controlled a lot of it, but just didn't do any damage in that fight. And so while I get the comment, while I understand it, yes, Yana Santos hadn't fought in almost 2 years and is coming off a pregnancy and all of those things. This could have been two fighters meeting after the exact same amount of time off, and it would have went the exact same way, in my opinion.
Rob says Holly Holm is adjusting the timetable for female fighters. She is adjusting it because, man, phenomenal shape. It's not like she's coming in looking like she's really old.
Right.
Like her body looks actually better than ever, it seems like, right? It's just 6-fight deal as well. She signed with the UFC. They locked her down. They said, hey, if we're going to have you, we're going to have you for a long time. So she's probably going to retire in that octagon. I could see that happening eventually. I don't know if it ain't anytime soon, but I could see that happening. We got a decent list of future opponents for Holly Holm as well. You know, you got Juliana Pena, who's sitting at number 1. You could actually give her that fight if you really wanted to. You could give her a rematch, maybe to what is it? What's her name?
Irene Aldana. Yep.
Yeah,
Could do that
Aldana
again.
rematch wouldn't be too bad. I think that would be all right. Why not? You know what I mean? I think you should like give her the fights that's gonna make her fight, right? Make her maybe even like someone that can defend the takedowns, and then now she has to fight on the feet, which is a Juliana Pena, right? Don't you think?
I mean, the other one that I like is if Misha Tate gets a win over Mayra Bueno Silva here in a couple of weeks.
What a heartbreaker that first fight was for her, right?
Oh my God, I was there.
The whole fight.
I was there.
Oh, okay.
I was like literally in the process of writing. Holly Holm successfully defends her title, and Misha spins her to the ground and jumps on her back, and I was like, oh my God. And then we go to the main event, and it's the same thing. Conor McGregor is starting to, oh, no, wait, what just happened? Nate just hit him with what? Oh my God. Bonkers.
Yeah, one of the greatest comeback finishes in UFC history, that Misha Tate fight. And
Absolutely.
It was a title fight. That's what's so insane. You know,
needed that takedown, needed that finish, got it in the final minute. Incredible.
Yeah, I think people forget about that fight. They forget about that comeback win because it's not the head kick knockout, shotgun bang, you know, that Leon Edwards style. I like those two options. I think Misha Tate wins her next fight against Silva, right?
Yeah,
because Silva,
Silva's
a dark horse.
And if Silva wins, then Holly Holm's right there. Keep her moving forward against former champions, and see where she gets to, because the division needs either fresh names or a big name, and so that to me is a no lose situation for the UFC.
Silva is a dark horse in that division. I've been saying that since her last win. I think this year she's getting the fights that she needs to grow her stock, especially with the Misha Tate fight. But yeah, I think you should fast track her because she has the skill set to beat a lot of girls. And she's interesting. She's funny. You know what I mean? If you've seen her like post-fight interviews, like talking about Monsters energy drink, why don't I have this sponsor? You know what I mean? Like you want people like that. And yeah, I think this division is starting to shake up now a little bit with like Silva. I think Silva's going to roll up, and Pennington's making a second run, right? The shadow of that like loss to Amanda Nunes, she's getting further and further away from it. It's still going to pop up, right? People are still going to bring it up, but she's getting further and further away from it. Well, and it's going to be good.
And so much went into that fight. Like so much happened before that fight, right? She was off for almost 2 years. She had a horrific ATV accident where she almost lost her leg, almost wasn't ever going to fight again. And then you come back and your first fight back is, oh, go to Brazil and fight this monster. What do you expect of her? It wasn't her night. These things happen in MMA, as Gus Johnson once famously said. So she's looked really good since. If she goes out there and give her another opportunity, she's earned it. She's somebody that is, if it's not the next title fight, then it's Juliana Pena, and you two can decide it.
Preston says 100% agree on the Pena fight, the only fight that makes sense. And then he adds, Pena seems stuck on the rematch. Of course she's stuck on the rematch because she wants a chance to fight for the title again. But it seems like the UFC, they're not interested in that. They're trying to, to be honest with you, I think they're trying to bring Holly Holmes up to fight for the title again. For some reason.
So I don't know any of this. I'm not reporting anything. This is pure speculation on my part. I think they went into UFC 285 and if Valentina Shevchenko won, defended her title, they would have tried to make that for a third time. Bring her up, have her fight Amanda. That got scuttled, and now it's like, okay, well, what do we do? So yeah, Juliana Pena is there as an option. Raquel Pennington is there as an option. Like, I can't get excited for a third fight between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena right now. Not the way, like, the two fights, yes, the upset was memorable, but it wasn't a great fight. Like, it wasn't a fight where I was like, oh, this is an amazing fight, and we got this upset. It was just kind of a sloppy, ugly, and we got an upset. And then the second fight was one-sided.
That's what Pena needed to win the fight, though. She needed the sloppy.
I agree. And so if they want to do it a third, listen, I'm going to watch it. I will get excited by the time it rolls around because Amanda Nunes is back, and I love watching Amanda Nunes fight for the most part. But I would rather either somebody fresh, that Raquel Pennington fight, as we said, it's been enough time now that I'd like to see her get the opportunity. I mean, if Val doesn't want an immediate rematch with Alexa Grasso, come up anyways.
Yeah, that could be an option. You also have like Irene Aldana. That was like talked about, right? There was rumored that fight was going on, and that would be the freshest matchup in that top 5 right there, or Caitlin Vieira, right? She's beaten Pena, she's beaten Pennington, she's beaten Home. She just hasn't fought Vieira or Aldana. You would want that. Maybe 2 Brazilians in Brazil. You put Vieira versus I don't know if Vieira's even coming off a win though.
She's not.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? And Aldana, she's coming off a win, I believe. You could put that there. If they do a Mexico card, maybe they're cooking something up for Mexico, and that's what they're waiting for.
5 title fights in Mexico.
Yeah.
Just get every Mexican contender or champion fighting on the same card. Do a 4-fight main card with Amanda Nunes against Irene Aldana, Alexa Grasso defending her belt, Yair Rodriguez in the unification against Alex Volkanovski, and Brandon Moreno defending his belt. Just 4 title fights. First time for everything in the UFC.
Oh, if it did, that would be just phenomenal for the Mexican fan base. But realistically, I think like we'll have Brandon and maybe Amanda as champions defending their titles if they could put that Mexico card together. I don't know. It's hard to like. I don't know. I don't think Valentina Shevchenko would agree to fight in Mexico. And Volkanovski, I don't think he would agree to fight in Mexico.
Volk's the one that I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
That's the one to me where it's like, wait, I have to go there to defend my belt. Like, I've never lost in this division in the UFC, and I've got to go fight a road game against this guy. Yeah. Like who maybe shouldn't have been fighting for the title. That doesn't seem
exactly.
I mean, you could do that one in Vegas or somewhere in August, and then figure out September in Mexico City with the flyweights and go from there.
Yeah, those 2 fights would be phenomenal for Mexico. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, throw your comments in the chat, and let's move on to the next topic from UFC San Antonio. I would like to bring this up on the screen, and this is one of the best guys that I want to hear speak on any post fight. Let's just put him on here and see what he said. Listen to this guy.
Look at this bicep. Look at this bicep. Nate the Train, baby.
I love Nate the Train.
Nate the Train. Look
Like,
at
we
these.
gotta hear
Look at
that
this
again, man.
bicep.
Yeah, look at that.
What was the line? I can't remember the line. It was, and it ended
Sucker,
with,
sucker
and I
punch.
ain't bad to look at either.
Yeah.
Something
Look
like
at
that.
this bicep.
Yeah.
The greatest part is his bicep. You would think like, oh, like a Sage Northcutt bicep, right? But it's not. It's like his bicep looks like a normal person's bicep, right? But he says,
Nate the Train,
look at
baby.
Nate the Train.
I love somebody said it yesterday, and I apologize to whoever it was, but after it, because he had to like Nate the Train in the UFC. He's been in the UFC for like 3 or 4 years, but he's still like amazed by it every time he's out there. Give me all the Nate Landwehr, all of it. Like, if he can fight 4 times a year, let's go.
He's a legit threat, man. Like, the dude is he's a killer. He's a guy that marches forward, has like good power, has a granite chin. We seen that in his last fight, or even his first fight. And come back. He can come back from being down and win fights. And I thought Austin Lingo was tough enough, right? Because he's a tough dude to last this to the decision. But man, Nate the Train goes in there and sucker punch rear naked choke. Is that what he said? Like, he punched him and like his from behind when he was like
shouts out his management, the whole 9.
Yeah. His mouthpiece falls out, like flies out, and just wraps up the choke and gets the win. Very, very impressive stuff, man. What did you think of Nate the Train? And now I think he's on like a 3-fight win streak, I believe. So what do you see in him, man? Like, where do you put him now? 3-fight wins.
I mean, as you said, he's a guy that right now he's outside of the top 15. I think that remains the case when the rankings update, because I don't think beating Austin Lingo necessarily, despite it being impressive, is going to get him into the rankings, because featherweight is pretty loaded through the top 15. But he's a guy that, like, if you're a hopeful coming up, if you're one of those guys holding on to one of the spots in the bottom third of the division, you don't want that paperwork coming across the desk that says you and Nate Landwehr. Because, like, as you said, he's been through championship fights over an M1. He's got 5-round experience. Granite chin. We saw that in the fight with David Onama. Can finish you. He doesn't mind getting dirty. He doesn't mind getting grimy. That's a tough out every time. And like, every division needs dudes like Nate the Train. He is one of a kind. He is a one of one. But every division needs somebody like that. So if I'm, anybody that's trying to make some headway, that's trying to move forward, like, if I'm a guy like Movsar Evloev, who's been off for a little bit, who needs a little bit of a reset, I don't want those problems. I would pick Evloev. I think he still beats him, but like, it becomes one of those like real tough fights that's got high risk, low reward all over it. And so I just want to see Nate continue to fight like every 4 months, every 5 months, and see what he can do. See if he can put something together and get himself into that top 15. Because he's got the skills.
He does. He does got the skills. He's all around good fighter, and he has the intangibles. And
he's got the biceps.
Yeah, he's got the look at this bicep. Like, his accent as well puts another layer to it, right?
Oh, the Tennessee drawl is something. I talked to him before. It might have been before his debut, and it took me a minute. It took me a second to do the like, hang on, what he just say? I got to get this thing adapted into my brain of like, get through it, because it's heavy and it's syrupy and it's pretty. He's a character, man. That's a dude that stands out. You remember him.
Yeah, you got to, man. It's being like vanilla is just some people, right? It's just what they are, right? But then when you got someone like Nate the Train, and he's got the Tennessee drawl, and like, even when Habib started speaking English, right? He had his little quirks and stuff, but that was what made him right grab attention. He made headlines because of that. He's like, it's not speaking English properly, it's speaking English in your way. And making it work for you.
And telling Michael Johnson that he might as well just quit because I have to fight for the title. You know this. That was the best. That was when it was for me. Like, I was in on the skills, but then mid-fight when he's like, you should just give up because I must fight for the title. You understand this, right? Here, continue mashing you. No, you're not going to quit. Great, I'm going to take your arm and twist it behind your back, and you're going to quit.
Exactly. It's just what you need, man, to draw attention. And Nate the Train, he's going to get a great matchup. Preston's talking about LaRon Murphy.
100%.
That's a great fight.
I'm in on that.
You know who called him out? Nate the Train? Josh Kulabau. That's a great fight as well.
I'd be in on that.
Yeah,
give Josh me all Kulabau. Like this division in that second 15. There's a whole bunch of dudes that are in the same spot of trying to keep moving forward, trying to get ahead. I mean, if you wanted to give me Nate the Train and Nathaniel Wood when he gets healthy, sign me up for that. Like, there's options. Just get him back in there. Get him back in there in 4 months.
Those are all toss-up fights as well. It's not like, oh, I favored this guy or that. Those are toss-up fights. Yep. Those are really, really good fights. And I would enjoy all of them, man. I can't wait to see Nate the Train again. You know, I think that they need to do some kind of like profile on him, you know, in the UFC. You know how the UFC...
he needs to show up on UFC Connected.
Yeah, something.
Megan O'Leary, like, we need a profile on Nate the Train.
Take Nate to go back to Tennessee.
Go to Clarksville, Tennessee. Yeah. See what day-to-day life is like for Nate the Train.
Yeah, exactly. Like, go to, like, I when I envision like where he grew up, I could see him like on like a farm with a creek, and like he has a tractor trailer, you know what I mean? Like
fishing with a stick with just a piece of fishing line.
Exactly. Like what's that book? I forgot. It's a book that they make every kid read when they're young in the US.
Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, Huckleberry. Exact.
I got you.
Why is he not dressed up as Huckleberry Finn? Why is he not?
So he needs to borrow Brian Barberina's overalls and get himself a straw hat and just come out with a fishing rod and be Nate the Train. I mean, truth be told, he looked fly as hell showing up yesterday.
Yeah.
Had the blue suit on. He looked good showing up at media stuff. He's a sharp looking man.
He is.
Good looking to boot, and he's got those biceps.
Yeah, he's got.
We need more Nate. We need more Nate the Train content.
But we need the overalls and the wheat. What is it? The hay in his lip with the hat on. We need that. We need something. We need a promo. You know what I mean? Nate the Train need to get on the social media and do his promos right. Hype.
You heard about the Caceres fight? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a beautiful fight as well, man. Like that featherweight division, like that like little pocket right there where you got like Kulabau and Nate the Train and LaRon Murphy and Caceres. Those are just amazing fights. There's so many, like,
throw all the names in a hat and just
exactly, like, how easy
whatever two you pull out, great.
You give them a call and say, hey, this is who we got for you. This is can you make this date? All right. I don't think it's that difficult, right? I don't think it's that difficult.
There's a picture on his Instagram where he's got a Paul Felder-esque mustache.
Yeah.
I need that. I need Nate the Train fighting with a push broom one day. Yeah, let's go.
Sure. All right. Let's remove this and let's move on to the next topic, which is Maycee Barber getting a split decision. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Split decision win over Andrea Lee. 230-27 for Maycee Barber and 128-29 for Andrea Lee. What did you think about those scorecards?
I thought Maycee Barber won every round, and it wasn't even particularly close. Like, we need to have, it's like every 4 to 6 months, we need to have the conversation again. And shout out to my guy, Sean Sheehan at Severe MMA, my boss at Severe MMA, the pod god himself, the man that is the authority on MMA judging and the criteria. We need to have the conversation every 4 to 6 months because it seems like people forget that these fights are scored on damage. First and foremost, like, this is what we're looking for. So all that wonderful control time that they talked about Andrea Lee accumulating, and she did well to control me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. If you're not doing damage, if you're not threatening with submissions, if you're not coming close to finishing that fight, Maycee Barber punching you in the mouth a bunch of times really hard before it got to the ground, or elbowing you as she did on the ground for several moments, is what wins that fight, is what wins that round. And I thought throughout, Maycee Barber landed the more telling blows. She did more damage. She had more impactful striking throughout that fight. She did well to wrestle at times. There's still some IQ stuff and some decision-making stuff that I'd love to see her improve, but she's 24. And so there's still room to grow. Like, to me, this is another one of those fights on this card where, was it really a split decision? Like, I'll go back and watch it again because I record everything and I'm a nerd that watches fights over and over again. But I thought it was 30-27 Barber. And so when it came out a split decision, it was like, oh, right, Texas.
Yeah, Texas is atrocious. And we're going to get more into that Texas judging. But this is a fight that I missed. I missed this fight. The reason why I missed this fight, I could talk like I watched it. I watched it. Right?
I appreciate this. I appreciate this honesty.
The only part that I saw of that fight, because I was busy doing an interview with the boys over at Tapped Out, and they do a live show on the radio, and I was doing an interview about the card and about UFC 287. But I was watching bits of it, like in my peripheral on my computer, and I just saw, I think it was the first round where Andrea Lee was on top, but then Macy Barber trapped her back arm with her thighs and was just elbowing her from the bottom, right? And I was just like, whoa, that's an interesting position to be in, and you're just controlling her. I wonder how tight those thighs are as well. Like, dang, I've never seen anybody just control someone's wrist with their thighs like that. Usually it slips out because it's sweaty,
right?
You know what I mean? And you're wearing gloves, but somehow, man, she's an animal, man. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, she's doing more damage in that position from what I saw of the fight. I didn't see the rest of the fight. I have no idea what happened. But then there was an outrage online about the scorecards and why she got 30-27. But when you explain it like that for somebody that didn't watch the fight and you said she did the more damage, and I feel like in fighting, it's about damage. It's not about who danced around more. It's not about
the actual rules, the actual criteria. And as my guy Sean will say, it's 3 pages. It's just 3 pages. Go read it. It's not that long. Damage. It doesn't say the actual word damage. I don't believe, I haven't read them in a while, but I know what the rules are. It's damage. Effective striking is basically damage. It's the immediate impactful versus is weighed more heavily than the cumulative. So if I hit you with one good shot, we had Chito Vera in the main event, right? It's the Chito Vera Rob Font fight is the perfect example of that. Rob Font outlanded Chito Vera by like 100 strikes over the course of that fight. Every single round, he outlanded Chito Vera. But Chito's shots were doing so much more impact, having such a greater impact that he won that fight running away. That's what you need to know. Those are the things you need to know. If it's on the ground and nobody's doing anything, there's no damage. It doesn't matter if Andrea Lee holds Macy Barber on the ground for 2.5 minutes. That it doesn't do anything. Macy Barber, as you said, pinned her arm behind her back and elbowed her in the face a bunch of times. That's the effect of striking. That's the damage. That's the impact. That's what matters.
Damage and then there's the confusion over like what is exactly a significant strike. Like I think there should be strikes landed, and then there should be something else, not significant strikes, because sometimes significant strikes is just too high. Like that many significant strikes and the dude's not dead, like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, but like what you said, the rules say it's damage is number one, and that's what I agree upon. I agree upon damage. Like this is fighting. You're fighting to take out your opponent, to put them unconscious, to choke them out, to break their arm, like that's damage, right? I think that should be number one. And if it's like that, then why not? Why not? And let's get to some of these comments. We got Dirty Reg 22. I thought Barber nipped the fight. Dirty Reg also says, well said, ESK. Well said. Preston, don't see how people see how Barber stole the fight. Barber won every round. Jennifer Maya should be the next challenge. Oh, that's actually not a bad fight. That's not a bad fight. Dirty Reg is already back at it. She'll beat Maya too. Hopefully more convincing though. Preston, yeah, possibly. I love to see Barber versus Chukagian if UFC would like to test her. Yeah,
that'd be interesting. I'd be more interested in that than Jennifer Maya, because I think Jennifer Maya would box her up the same way she did Casey O'Neill a couple weeks ago in London.
I was surprised that Andrea Lee was able to, like, from what I heard of the fight, controller on the ground. I was surprised by that. I would have thought that Barber would be the one to take it to the ground if possible. And to
Andrea Lee's got some good. She's always had some good
she's
wrestling.
good. Yeah, she's always been good.
She's solid in the middle of that division, in the middle of that top 15. I mean, I think for Macy, some of it is just still being okay with accepting bad positions. I mean, she did damage in the first round, as we were talking about, right? Pinned that arm and got off some strikes, but there's a little bit too much accepting of, all right, I'm stuck here for a minute. Let me figure out what I'm doing. It's still, and look, this is a function of being young. It's a function of being relatively inexperienced. For all the things we, for as long as she's been in the UFC and as much as we've known about her, even coming through the regional ranks on her way up, that fight on Saturday was her 14th professional fight. So she's still relatively inexperienced. And I think that's just a function of that. As she continues to get older, as she continues to develop and work with the guys at Team Alpha Male, some of that'll get fixed ideally. And we won't necessarily see it. But Andrea Lee's just another one of those. I mean, it's similar to Jen Maya, like just a really good veteran test in the middle of that division, can do a little bit of everything, isn't going to beat the elite in that division, and is a perfect fighter for these kinds of matchups against people like Macy Barber in that ascending set.
Yeah, there's 3 names, right? You got Chukagian, like 3 veteran names in that division that already fought for titles that you need to put like rising prospects against, which is Macy Barber, a rising prospect, Chukagian, Maya, or Murphy. I think those are the 3 names you put in a hat, you mix it around, and whatever pops out, you put them on a date later this year, probably July, International Fight Week. Put them on that card. I think that's a good showcase for Macy Barber because she's still developing, and yeah, and why not put those names in there?
Yeah, she's gonna end up fighting Lauren Murphy. That's what I think it'll be.
That's the car crash fight, right? Like the styles, they're kind of like similar stature.
Yeah, like
aggressive.
Macy Barber might be able to dominate that fight, as we saw Jessica Andrade go out, and we saw Valentina Shevchenko 2 fights before that. Mm-hmm. But we've also seen Lauren Murphy be the like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay in your face. Yeah,
the bull,
like she did to Misha Tate. So
yeah,
be a cool fight to see.
Make sure you guys put your comments in the chat. We'll throw them up there. Give us your thoughts on these fights. And go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, go play UFC picks with us when you can. Now we got the prelims, so to say. We had a bunch of performances there. We had a split decision win for Albert Duriev. You had the submission guillotine choke 2nd round for Daniel Pineda. Lucas Alexander picking up his win, and Steven Peterson retiring. Trevin Giles with a split decision win against Preston Parson. And then you got that TKO comeback win by CJ Vergara. And then Victor Alta Morano with the unanimous decision win. There's a lot of talking points, but I think the one that everybody's probably focused on is CJ Vergara taking the extreme beating that he took and running circles.
actively running away.
Okay, this is a question I got for you about that fight. If you're actively running away from your opponent, like with your back, should the fight be stopped? Like distance, like he ran distances.
So this is actually a question, and my partner in crime, Harry Powell, and I will be sitting down to talk about this on the takeaways tomorrow, because he messaged me of like, isn't that exact same thing? Shouldn't that be considered? Because we've seen it, right? You're not supposed to turn your back to your opponent. For a referee, they can, and we've seen it in the past, stopped fights because you've turned and walked away, that you don't want to engage. The thing that I think gives CJ Vergara that sort of leniency is you could see the urgency of, I just need to get away and then reset. If he just kept running, if it was the, forward version of the Caleb Starnes back pedal against Nate Cory, that I can see, but like this was the, I don't know, fast forwarded version of Carlos Condit constantly circling out against Nick Diaz way back in the day, but with like urgency and being on roller skates and like, just get me away from this guy for 30 seconds to breathe and then I'll be okay. But certainly a point that I think should be discussed, because you're right. You're not supposed to turn your back and actively running away from a guy is a real bad look. But then he came back and won in the second round. So like, who are we to criticize at this point?
Props to Herzog for not stopping that fight and allowing it to continue. When's the show? Like, so people that are watching, they could check it out.
So it will be up on Tuesday on the Severe MMA YouTube page. Go and check that out. It'll also be on their Patreon, on our Patreon. So if you want to subscribe to that, it's severemma.com/pints, the best URL in the business.
There you go. There you go.
Thanks for the free plug.
No worries, man. No worries. Yeah, Daniel da Silva, man, four fights in a row where it's pretty much the same thing that happens, where he just can't put out his opponents, and then they just come back and win the fight by putting him out.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the UFC keeps him around, because these are the type of fights that he gets
into.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another one.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets one more shot.
Yeah,
he was so close in the first round of that. He had some success in the first round of his debut, which was short notice back in the day against Jeff Molina. He had some success early in his fight with Victor Altamirano before this one. So like, he's also, I think he's only like 25, 26. Yeah. And so just another one of these kids that's a lunatic to start. And so, yeah, I mean, the UFC will keep him around for these action fights. We're all talking about him, right? Yeah. This is the end of the day. We've gotten to a point in this sport or in the UFC where at certain points, results don't actually matter as much as, are we talking about them? Because like, we've seen people on 3, 4, 5 fight winning streaks that just fade into the background. Daniel da Silva's on a 4-fight losing streak, and he's one of the 5 most talked about fighters from this card.
He's turning into the Sam Alvey of the flyweight division, right?
Yes,
that's what he's turning into.
This
but more exciting, right?
But more exciting. Yes.
Yeah, more exciting.
And with better walkout music.
Yeah. There's a couple other topics.
And a mouthpiece that fits.
Yeah. Trevin Giles, man, he just gets these decision wins, man. Like when I don't know if it's deserving, but like he gets decision wins. Like he's had a few in the past where he's gotten them where people thought he lost the fight. But, you know, I guess, I don't know. I don't like to say like, oh, you shouldn't have went to the judges, because there's a reason why there's judges. The judges should be competent enough to judge the fight, to give it to the right fighter that won, right? And I thought Preston Parsons won that fight clearly. So did I. Clear as day, right?
So did I.
Mount, submission attempts, like takedowns. Like Giles hit him with a couple good shots, but Preston was the one marching forward, doing more damage. And I don't understand what they saw in that fight to give it to Giles. And man, it's so like,
so Trevin Giles,
Macy Barber damage. Then Trevin Giles is the opposite, and he wins the fight.
He has been one of the most frustrating fighters for me to watch throughout his career, because like that jab on Saturday night was crisp. Why aren't we just working behind that jab all the time? Like, it's landing every time you throw it. It's busting up his eye and swelling up his eye. Why are we doing anything else until he proves that isn't going to work? Away we go. But instead, there's always little moments where he gets caught or he gets out of position, and he did a great job for the most part of scrambling up in those takedowns, of wrestling his way back to his feet and getting clear and getting back into space. Continue with that jab. I thought Preston Parsons won. It's not just because I picked him or anything like that. I thought he won that fight, but here's Trevin Giles on a 2-fight winning streak. So probably get a little step up in competition. And man, if he could he feels to me like one of those guys. And I hate saying these things because people always blow it out of proportion of like, oh, you don't have appreciation for the guys he's with. Appreciate the coaches that got him to where he is. I would love to see Trevin Giles go and do a camp at one of these larger gyms where he's working with more UFC caliber, high level guys, high level coaches that can take that athleticism that is clearly there. It's a guy that's got wins in the UFC in 3 weight classes, knocked out Ryan Spann on the regional circuit before he got to the UFC. Go work with one of these bigger gyms that's got a lot of bodies, that's got a lot of coaches that can refine that athleticism, because he's always felt to me like a guy that is right on the cusp of being something special, and he just hasn't ever really put it together consistently.
the people in the comments, if you're talking about the barber fight, just rewind it after we're done, and you could hear all our thoughts on that. I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, but you know, Spencer goes off on that fight, so we'll see. You guys just rewind and find that, right? Yeah. So the judging, of course, it's a big issue. Even the Chitty fight, you could have argued that he won
Yep.
that fight as well, right?
Yep.
Against Duryev.
I mean, judging it, it's always going to be a thing that we discuss, that we debate, and people are. I understand the frustrations. Some of it we have to accept that some of this is subjective, right? Like this isn't straightforward. If fighter A does this and fighter B does that, then clearly fighter A wins. Like some of it is just what you value, and it's three people sitting around an octagon where views are obstructed. Sometimes you don't see everything clearly. Some states they have monitors, some states they don't. You get different levels of officials. Sometimes it is those veteran names that we're all familiar with, and we had a bunch of those on Saturday with guys like Sal Diamato and Chris Lee and people like that are tenured. But we also had a couple referees doing double duty, right? Jacob Montalvo and Dan Mergliotta were judging as well as reffing. And then we also have those local officials like Joel Ojeda, who scored that main event for Chito Vera. And so there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. There's not an easy fix. I know everybody wishes there was an easy fix and that we could just straighten this stuff out, because it does cost athletes money. It does cost people watching money. I'm sure there's lots of people that landed on the wrong side of split decision bets. Like, I get all of those frustrations, but unfortunately there's some subjectivity to it and there's no easy fix. And so we've just got to keep working with all of these commissions individually and just continue to train and teach and educate officials and the masses. That's the other part. People watching these fights need to learn and understand what the criteria is, so that they're not just shouting into a void and shouting incorrect information.
Damage.
But the internet is for shouting into a void. So
exactly.
That's what Twitter's for.
It's a stress reliever.
That's what Twitter's for.
Yeah, stress reliever. Dirty Reg says that I thought Chitty came back and won that one good point. Yeah, I thought he lost the first round clearly because of the takedown, and he was just getting mauled basically in the first round. And in the second round, They stood up and they were going to strike. Why is Duryev trying to strike with a striker? You're going to basically lose 9 out of 10 rounds with him. And that's what happened, I thought. 2 rounds, he lost. And but the judges didn't see that. Marcus Mustard was good. I thought Duryev lost. I thought Chitty Bang Bang won. Yeah, I think a lot of people did, man. I think a lot of people bet on Chitty Bang Bang to win as well. And, like, it kind of sucks for him because his mom came to his fight for the first time ever, man, and she had to watch him actually win a fight but lose on the scorecards, man. It sucks for him, man. It does suck for him. Now, moving on from this card, connected to this card, I just wanted to jump on some news topics that's going on in the world of MMA, and it's closely connected to this card, which is the Fury FC. Let's go into that Fury FC card, the main event. We had Fury FC, what was it, 76, right? The main event. Referee, Frank Collazo. Collazo was actually one of the judges.
He was.
During this UFC San Antonio card. And look at this. Look at what happened. Let's play this video for everybody to watch. And I would like to get your reactions after I play this video. I think he's sleep already right there.
Yeah, he's out. He's out. And you know that because he's not doing anything.
How is the ref not even checking the arms?
See, this is my frustration with it. This is my point of contention with it, is that there's not even a check. There's not a go and lift the hand. There's not we can't hear it, but there's not a audible, let me know you're okay. Let me know you're with me, whatever. And then even here, right, like the arm is so clearly hyperextended that at a certain point, and we've seen it in the past, right? Always going to reference the Frank Mir Tim Sylvia fight where Herb Dean is just like, I don't care that you didn't tap. I just heard your arm break in multiple places. We're done here. But I mean,
this is the highest level of incompetence, right?
hopefully
As a
Gianni
ref.
Vasquez is relatively okay. Like I know he's talked about having some issues with his elbow already, but like hopefully it's nothing significantly long term. But like my man was out and the referee didn't even check on him.
He's lucky. Like I'm gonna say he's lucky that his opponent switched to the arm bar and didn't continue with the choke. Because you know what happens when you hold on to the choke for too long. You could kill somebody. And imagine if that happened, man. If we go that far into the void and just think about that, dude, it would have crazy repercussions. And you lost a life. You're like you are in control. This is the reason why the ref is there, is to keep people safe. Like I don't
And the
understand.
part that's crazy to me is that so this happened on Friday night. Instantly was a thing that everybody like it all the way up until the start of the UFC card and even through it was a thing everybody in the MMA community, the MMA online, MMA Twitter was talking about. And Frank Collazo was working the UFC show as a judge. Now he wasn't a referee, but as a like I don't want that man anywhere near anything to do with these fights. He showed he doesn't know what he's looking at. So why do I want him scoring fights? He's right there. He is the closest anybody can be to understanding what's happening. And he let that man be asleep for a good 30 seconds and then have his arm hyperextended and who knows what the actual damage is.
He woke up because his arm was being hyperextended, basically. And then he's like, imagine that. Imagine you go out.
You get choked unconscious. You finally come to, and it's because my arm feels weird.
Yeah.
What's happening here? Oh,
Exactly.
this guy's breaking it. Great. Good
These
times.
commissions, man, these commissions, they are the ones responsible for putting these individuals in these spots, in these vital spots for these fighters. These fighters put in so much work. They risk so much to go out there and compete, and they're risking their lives, dude, when they go out there. And you're supposed to keep them as safe as possible. And this guy almost allowed someone to die in the cage, basically. This dude should never be working ever again.
Terrible.
There's no excuse for this. Like even us, we're not even referees. We know what to do in that spot, right? We know, like, if someone's getting choked and you feel like, hey, they're not moving around, you check them to make sure that they're okay. You grab their wrist, you grab their arm to see if there's any kind of like,
at the absolute least, you get right up in there and do the like, you got to give me a thumbs up.
Yeah,
right.
Something.
You tell me you're okay. Show me you're okay. And if they don't respond, it means they're asleep. And you should stop the fight. It's brutal.
And anybody that's attacking Edgar Chairez for not like letting go, it's not his job. His job is to finish the fight. He does not stop until the referee stops. Exactly, yeah. Right? So don't ever attack him for this. This is all on the ref. This is all on the commission. And that's the thing, is commissions, they don't take any criticism and they don't care about what people are saying. And that's the problem right now, is these commissions, there's no repercussions for them. They're just sitting in their high castles doing what they do, collect money. And basically it's just a front to make, I don't know, man. It's just irritating to me.
It's maddening.
It's irritating to me that and fighters can't really say too much about it, is because the commissions will find a way to not, allow them to fight. If you go too far, they hold too much power. There shouldn't be like different commissions for different regions as well. It's like, why are you having 80 commissions? Because it's a money-making machine.
Why is there a commission? And like, I get it from a state by state, but it also, back when the unified rules weren't applied everywhere, it turned into the Wild West. It turned into chaos. And so, I mean, this is just, as you said, the worst part of it is that there's no transparency with it. There's no accountability for it. I'm not saying I want this official to have to come and stand in front of the media at the end of Friday night and say, answer all the questions for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it's going to be. But like, you as a commission have to come out and say, look, he made a mistake. We acknowledge here and now that he made a mistake, and we're going to do these different things, and he's not going to officiate until X, Y, and Z. Because if he's out there next weekend, and there will be a show somewhere in the great state of Texas next weekend, that he's probably going to be officiating. And if I was the guy on a card where he's officiating, and we've seen UFC fighters do this, and fighters have the opportunity to do this. I don't know if it necessarily holds true at the regional level because you don't have that much sway, but we've seen it at the UFC level where fighters have gone in and been like, yeah, that guy's not reffing my fight. I don't want that dude officiating my fight. If I'm on a card and that guy's there, nah, man, I'm not putting my life in your hands. You've shown to me that you don't know what you're looking at. So if I'm in a bad spot, no, keep him away.
Yeah, coaches, fighters, they should be boycotting this guy. They have to be. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want this guy anywhere near anything that's going on with mixed martial arts or any kind of combat sport, because he's shown that he doesn't know what to do. And it's crazy that the commentators are Kate's side and they're screaming, he's out, stop the fight. Like, this dude can't hear that. Like, well, and then it almost, he's hesitated for a second. Did you notice that? Like, he was going to stop the
100%.
fight.
The worst part of it is that if a athlete in the cage crosses a line, right? So if strike somebody after the bell, push an official, they face repercussions instantly, immediately. It's got to go both ways. It's got to. And I'm not sitting here expecting Texas to do the right thing because Texas is going to Texas. But if you're an athlete and that man's name is listed as the official for my fight, I'm talking to whoever I got to talk to get somebody else in there. Give me Jacob Montalvo. Yeah. He's a great official that refs a lot of fights in Texas. He's the only one I can think of, though. That's the unfortunate thing. There's not like 4 or 5 dudes that work regularly in Texas that I'm like, oh, that would be perfect. I would constantly be asking for Jacob Montalvo.
If Steve Mazzagatti can get banned, like, this dude is without a doubt should be banned from any kind of combat sport. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and we're going to move on to the next topic. The next topic is from UFC San Antonio, and not this one. Oh, here we go. Manel Kape, his fight was canceled with Alex Perez, like hours, maybe even an hour before that they were even supposed to step out. And Alex Perez was, it was revealed that he had a seizure in the back warming up. And then I believe he was taken to the hospital and they canceled the fight. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is Manel Kape's reaction to this, that he is attacking and calling him a coward. And do we need this in the sport, man?
No. No.
What do you think about this?
It's dumb. Reaction? It's dumb. It's the bravado nonsense that sometimes makes this sport intolerable, right? Like, a man had a serious medical issue, and your reaction. And look, I get being frustrated. I get being the dude that signed up to fight Alex Perez, who has had 9 fights canceled in the last 4 years and can't seem to make it to the cage ever. I get the frustrations of being an hour away from making the walk, finally get to make the walk again, and this dude not being able to compete. He's like, can we dispel the whole anyone that fights professionally is a cow? Like, just think that through for a minute, Manel Kape. You understand, you know this, you fight. Are you ever a coward when you can't make it? No, something happens. And Alex Perez faced something serious. No one that makes that walk and steps into that cage is a coward. Their job is to get into a fist fight for a living. They're not cowards. Stop. We need to be done with this. I get that Manal Kape is a guy that likes to talk. He likes to say a whole lot of things. Sometimes just leave it. Just let it be. My man had a seizure.
I understand his frustration because he was about to fight, and he's close to a title shot as well, right? They probably told him, yeah, you know, he's there. If he went out
and styled on Alex Perez, and like that's probably part of the frustration, right? I think I'm going to go out and style on this dude, beat him in the first round, and put myself in the top 5 to get one of these big names where I win one more and I'm fighting for a title.
Exactly.
Or I can go out there and cut a promo and say, everybody already knows I'm the number 1 contender.
Yeah.
Give me the next title shot.
Yeah, I think if he would have took the high road on this, it would have showed better, you know what I mean? But then at the same time, it probably would have made headlines. And nowadays, you're starting to notice that fighters might say things that are out of character. Because I've known Manel Kape for a while, and he's always been vocal. I'm going to put it out there. He's always been vocal, but he has like this respectful side as well for his opponents. But usually after they fight, not before.
Right.
Yeah, I think if he would have took the high road, it would have just been better in the long term is how people look at him. But the headlines are going to be made because you say something out of character. If you say something, you know, outlandish, and that's what happened, right? In this instant. Yes, serious medical issue. I don't understand like why he would agree to fight Alex Perez, to be honest with you. I don't understand why any flyweight would agree to fight Alex Perez. He's pulled out of too many fights. That's a big red flag to me. I would think like if I'm a top 10 fighter, that's the last person I would want to fight. The reason why is not because you're scared or whatever. It's because there's
a very real chance that he's not making it to fight.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what the reason is.
And they haven't all been his. Like if you go to his Tapology, it's 2 fights and then a whole bunch of gray for cancellations. They're not all his. I think there was one where Matt Schnell pulled out because he got sick after weigh-ins. I think the last one that he was supposed to have with Kai Kara-France, Kai tore his knee. And so that's not Alex Perez's fault, but like the majority of them are Alex Perez hasn't made it to the cage for one reason or another. I'm with you. Like if I'm an aspiring flyweight and they offer me that fight, hey man, you got somebody else. You got someone else that I can fight.
Bad juju. I believe in bad juju, and sometimes you get bad juju, right? And
he's just
Alex.
Yeah,
it's just not working out for him.
Yeah,
exactly. Ever since the title fight, it just has not been a good run for him, Alex Perez. I hope he's back. I hope nothing is wrong with them. Seriously, you know what I mean? Because a seizure is a seizure, dude. That's scary stuff, right? Like,
agreed.
Have you ever seen anybody have a seizure?
Yes.
If you have,
it's
then
scary.
You know how scary it is to be. They're completely out of control of their body. You're out of control yourself. You can't control the situation. It's scary stuff. Manel Kape, hopefully they match him up faster against somebody, a top 10 guy, somebody, man. Because I like to watch Manel Kape fight. I think that he's one of the guys that are still pretty young in that division, and he's probably the fastest in the division, and he's so dynamic, and he would make a great heel at the top of that division against the top guys, like a Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is the nicest guy in the world, right? He plays with Legos and all that. And I think Kape would draw that out of him, you know, even more so than like a Davison Figueiredo, right? Because Kape can speak English. He can speak multiple languages, right? He speaks Portuguese. He's from Portugal. So that works too. They could go to Brazil and do that fight. Like I could see
he will trash talk anybody.
Yeah.
First time I talked to him was before his debut. And right away I was like, for people that don't know you, like for people that this is going to be the introduction, what do they need to know? And he said that I'll be champion by the end of the year. I'm already the best flyweight in the UFC. I was like, my guy's good with a quote.
Yeah, for sure.
Manel Kape, I am the best flyweight in the UFC. Ain't fought a second in the octagon. I like it.
But I love the confidence, right? Like it's taken them far. I've known Manel Kape since his days of like becoming a contender in Ryzen and then becoming the champ. I remember first meeting him in Phuket at AKA Thailand and interviewing him. And he's a nice dude, man. But once that mic gets turned on and like he's talking about other fighters and his competition, because
Yeah.
he looks at it as competition. He really will go there. Like
Gets
he
dialed
does
up.
not have a filter. Yeah. So hopefully he gets rebooked. Alex is all good and dandy. And I just wonder, like, you know, in the face-offs, right? Maybe his frustration was built up from like him hearing the rumors that there was like a spy. Remember that? Like he talked about like there was a spy like watching his training at like the PI or something. Like he went to Alex Perez and like accused him of that, and maybe that actually built up and he got angrier because the fight was canceled because he was so emotionally attached to it. That could be something. But spies in camps, I believe that they are sometimes, especially
Oh,
in
yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah.
In Vegas, right? Because you don't know who's watching, right? In Vegas, especially at the PI, there's people walking around all the time, and they're not all UFC fighters. There's
Right.
people from different camps, different promotions that are using the facilities. You don't know who's who. You don't know who's watching. And yeah, and Vegas is like, man, that's a crazy ecosystem right there, right now with the PI and all the gyms that's there and all the fighters that are like relocating.
All the people
there.
that drop in, yeah, come in to do a bunch of tests at the PI and happen to see somebody working that's gonna fight your guy, and yeah,
it's an explosive place,
tricky.
man.
It's tricky.
One last topic that I wanted to get into is this one. Paulo Costa. Let's get into him. He says that he signed a new deal, a new 4-fight deal with the UFC. Well, I guess that's true. But the part that confuses me and I wanted to get your thoughts on it is he's saying he's going to make 7 figures a fight. Do you believe that?
No. No, I don't. Like, not. I mean, here's the thing, right? Paulo Costa can say whatever he wants to say, and because he knows that people would be like, "Cool, we're gonna write a story about this." Paulo Costa said X. We don't have to fact check at the UFC if you reached out to them. If you reached out and said, "Hey, could we get clarification?" Paulo Costa said that they're not going to confirm anybody's money. The UFC does not do that. Historically, they have never done that. The part for me is they just let the heavyweight champion of the world bounce. They're going to pay Paulo Costa, who 2 fights ago rolled into town and was like, yeah, I ain't making 85. 7 figures to fight in the middle of the middleweight division for right now. Like, I mean, maybe it's so the way I can see it is if he's making 500K and 500K, but even that feels hefty for Paulo Costa. Not that I don't want people to get paid. I want everybody to get as much money as they can get. And if he is getting 500K and 500K, all the more power to him. But you got to go out and win that second half. So maybe your deal is that structured that way, and that's how you get to 7 figures every fight. But then you got to hold up your end of the bargain, and you can't turn up being like, nah, we're not fighting at 85 today, Marvin. Let's do 205. Or, oh yeah, Izzy beat me, but it's because I had too much wine the night before. Like, you got to turn up and earn those figures.
Well, with this deal, right? So 4-fight deal. So if he's going to make 7 million, it could be per fight. It could be the whole contract, right? So let's say it's for 4 fights. It's $1 million, which means he's going to make 250K flat for each fight. Cause they do the flat fees for certain fighters, right?
Yep. I could see that.
Like if you look at what the UFC has done in the past and what he was making in the past, what Paulo Costa was making in the past, that's a big jump for somebody that's not fighting for the title. It's a big jump. And I don't even think he's close to the title right now, actually. You know what I mean? He's had a lot of negative friction with the UFC and USADA at the same time. It's great. It's great that he's making much more money than he is, but with media and with fighters and one thing you can do, and I think fighters should do this more often, is manipulate the media. They should do this. And we see fighters taking advantage of that, right? They'll say things that are not true They'll accuse other fighters of certain things that are not true, but it gets them in the headlines. They manipulate the media into talking about things. We're talking about it right now. This is the reason. And I think fighters should take advantage of that more. It doesn't matter if Paulo Costa is making 7 figures a fight. But just because he said that, and other fighters in that division, in the middleweight division, are not even making close to that, that's in the same position as him.
This becomes a talking point just by saying this is what's happening.
And you should do that. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, there's no repercussions for saying things in the media that are not true because you can't fact check it. The UFC is not going to tell you how much Paulo Costa's making. UFC doesn't have to tell us anything anymore. Like, you don't even know the pay-per-view numbers. You don't know how much fighters are making. There's there's secret bonuses that are going out. You know, there's pay and show. There's flat fees. We don't know. We don't know clearly. And because of that, you can manipulate what's out there online. And why not? Paulo Costa has become a master of social media, and his YouTube is crazy too, man. He gets like massive following on YouTube, like viewership for his content. And and he's just doing what he's doing, man. You know why? It's because he's not as dumb as he looks. That's why.
He understands. He's playing the game. I'm not somebody that is going to sit here and advocate for use the media as your prop tool, as your propaganda machine, but he's figured out this angle. He's figured out a way to just keep himself relevant, keep himself in the news. As we said, there's no way to verify this. Nobody is going to, he's not going to send you a screen grab of his contract.
No.
The UFC isn't going to say, yep, that's exactly what we're paying him. Here's how it breaks down. This isn't like, major professional sports leagues here in North America. He can say what he wants and we're going to write stories and away we go.
That could be illegal, right? Like, he can't post his contract. Like,
I don't believe so.
I don't think UFC has something. Yeah, UFC would probably have something there to cover their ass on that. So, we see Colby Covington doing it. He's saying things. He's threatening people, right? It's all fake. And it gets people roused up and wanting to click on it to see what he says, and they hate him, and even like other fighters, which really they don't need to. You know what I mean? They don't need to go and say like, oh, I got John Anik's back if Colby Covington tries to. Colby Covington is not going to attack anybody. What are you guys even talking about? What are you even thinking? Like, he's not. Have you seen him?
Do you really think the dude that got hit with a boomerang by Fabricio Verdum is going to go after someone's children? Like, what part of this shtick over the last far too many years it's been with Colby Covington has ever felt real to anybody? And if you believe it to be real, I got some lovely oceanfront property in the Midwest for you.
Yeah. I got a timeshare. I got a timeshare in the mountains of Montana for you to borrow. And anyway, it's to me, do your thing, man. Do your thing. And if people are going to believe it, they're going to believe it. And if they're going to write about it, they're going to write about it. If they do write about it, then it's better for you.
If someone gives you a hot mic and lets you just go and isn't going to push back,
it just goes back to Manel Kopp. Manel Kopp too. He's doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Is that how he really feels? Possibly.
Maybe, but maybe probably not. Yeah, maybe he just understands this is the thing to do to keep me out here. And looking at this division, as you said, we have the ultimate nice guy at the top of the division. Let me be the ultimate heel. It's a good play.
There you go. Everybody, make sure you guys go follow Spencer. Just tell everybody where they can find you, man. So and all the stuff that you're doing right now.
So you can follow me on Twitter at Spencer Kyte, SpencerKyte. That's the easiest place. I post all of my content. If you want to check out the Severe MMA YouTube page, it is Severe Arts. Post stuff pretty much every day, doing a bunch of stuff. Ironically, not going to be as much this week because we're not leading into a UFC event. Let's see if I can't grab a couple interviews this week and get those out there. But yeah, that's the main way to do it. Appreciate you having me and letting me plug the stuff. It's always good to catch up, man.
For sure. Everybody, make sure you guys go into the description and download the AllStar app. We've been growing the community right now, and there's so many people that are making picks and challenging each other each week and taking points, and you could win prizes, build up the points, win prizes, and just have fun, man. And it's all free. Like, there's nothing you need to pay to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, how many things are free in this world? Not many, but this one is, and you could communicate with me directly over there anytime you want. Yeah, so we'll have actually, there is no UFC show next weekend.
No,
There's
we're taking
we have a
April Fools
free.
off.
Oh,
Happy about
yes,
that.
me too, man. Me too. I'm gonna take the weekend off, and we'll be back the next week, Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for the pick show for UFC 287. We'll have lucrative MMA betting on that show. His first time on the show, and we'll have some fun with him. But other than that, man, make sure you guys follow me, JHK MMA on Twitter, and that's it. Have a good week and be safe out there, and get your money, man.